Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're doing my February wrap-up. There's the glare. I'm sorry, I should have put my contacts in, but I don't work tonight, so I didn't feel like actually doing that. So, February is an interesting month actually. I've read 7 books in February, and I am in the middle of 6, I think. But it was very interesting, so I'm super excited to jump in and tell you what I read, because I read a good book, I read some okay books, and I read some pretty bad books. So the first thing I read in February was Fence Volume 1. This is by PC Cast and Joanna Lafayette. This is a comic. I bought it in ebook form on my phone. It's only 22 pages, but it's about this guy who just is like fencing, and he goes to this like really prestigious tournament, and he like goes up against this like the best of the best in the youth league. And then he gets shipped off to this really fancy fencing boarding school, and the guy ends up being his roommate. And I liked it. I mean, it was only 22 pages. I need to buy the next, I think, 2 volumes or issues or whatever. I really enjoyed it. Apparently, I didn't really get the vibes from the first comic, but I guess from other people who've read the other installments, this is a gay comic. So I'm like, ooh, I could see it, especially at the end. I was like, I'm interested to see where this goes. Funny enough though, since this is written by P.S. Pacat. Did I say cast? P.S. Pacat. It's funny because I was watching somebody else. It was Emma over at Emma Venture Reads, I think is now what her channel name is. She had read another book by P.S. Pacat, and it's the Captive Prince series. I think she read the first book and she like tore it apart. She didn't like it. She's talking all about it, and then after I read it, I was like, why does that name sound familiar? And it's by the same person, so I just thought that was really interesting. I ended up giving Fence 4 out of 5 stars because I liked it, but it wasn't long enough and didn't give me enough, but that's okay because there's like 2 other issues out. So I will get around to those eventually. Next, I read The Constant Gardener by John le Carré. This book I would never have picked up in my life if it wasn't for a required reading for a class. And this white has like thrown off the balance of my video, but that's fine. He's very famous for writing spy novels, I guess. I don't know, I'd never heard of him, but then like everybody in my class was like, oh my god, yes, and I'm like, maybe it's because I read way too much YA and not adult lit, but you know, it's whatever. Basically, the premise of this book is a woman has been murdered and she's married to a British diplomat, and they are at the British embassy, I guess, in Nairobi, Kenya. We follow her husband as he tries to figure out like who killed her and why, and she was a very big activist for the humanities, and she was getting into some trouble with some companies, and it was very interesting. Honestly, I really liked it. I liked the premise. I liked that it was set in Kenya. It actually takes place like they're in Kenya, but he also like travels to somewhere in Italy. He goes back to England, and he goes somewhere else, and the book kind of comes full circle. It starts in Kenya and it ends in Kenya. I really liked it. It had a cool premise. My problem with this book is the writing style was very dense, and I had to like kind of reread some things to like kind of understand what was happening. And that really took away from my experience of the book as a whole. Overall, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It's not a bad book. It just wasn't for me. I don't think his writing style is for me, so I don't think I'm gonna ever pick up another one of his books. Like I said though, the only reason I even picked this up was because it was required reading. We're getting into the bad books. I listened to The Forest of Hands and Teeth by Carrie Ryan on audiobook because I recently discovered Overdrive, and it's a blessing. And I'm even cheating because I have 2 library cards. I have one for the library at my house, and I signed up for a library card for the library here in Oklahoma, so I can pick and choose from both libraries. I wanted to focus on listening to audiobooks for books that I already own, so I'm like actually slowly making a dent in my never-ending TBR. So I own The Forest of Hands and Teeth, and I have heard some things about it. I think it had something to do with zombies before I picked it up, so I got the audiobook and I listened to it, and it was fucking awful. I don't know if it was the narrator or just the story in general. I feel like it was really just the story in general. The only thing I have to say about the narrator that I didn't like is she did weird accents for some of the characters, and I was just like, where is this coming from? Like, what? For those who don't know, this story actually centers around, it is a zombie apocalypse type novel. We follow our main character, God, I don't even remember her name anymore, and they live in this like secluded village that's surrounded by fences, and the zombies, or as I call them, the unconsecrated, are on the other side of the fence, and they're always trying to get in. First off, unconsecrated, how much of a mouthful is that to say when they attack or anything? Like, really? Unconsecrated? You couldn't come up with a shorter word? Because, like, I want to say that every time I'm speaking about the dead thing on the other side of the fence. This is about to get ranty, but it's okay. So, she lives in this society, and what this book really reminds me of, it's like the movie The Village and The Walking Dead came together and made this book, which is cool. I enjoyed the movie The Village. It's kind of creepy, and I suggest everybody watch it if you haven't seen The Village. I mean, it's an older movie, but I still thought it was pretty good. I didn't guess the plot twists. I loved The Walking Dead. I haven't watched in a couple of years, but like now they've killed everybody off, so it's like, what's the point? I was like, oh, zombies. I like zombies. Our main character's name is Mary. So in this village, you know, it's definitely post-apocalyptic. They don't think anybody else. They keep saying they're like the last ones alive. There's a church, and the church kind of runs the society. Mary, for some reason, has this really strange obsession with the ocean, because her mother used to tell her stories of the ocean before, you know, the unconsecrated herd started killing everybody. And we're like, okay, and then she's like, doesn't get picked to be married for like the fall, spring or whatever. Her mom's just died and been turned into a zombie, and her brother doesn't want her living with him, so he basically gives her over to this church, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be cool, because, you know, the church is corrupt with all these nuns, and she's gonna, like, find out all this creepy-ass shit that's going down. She's gonna try to take it down. It's gonna be interesting. Like, I'm like, the church is turning people into zombies. That's what's happening, and I was like, yes. So she does find out some weird stories, like things that the church is hiding, and then this boy who she unrequited crush on since she was a kid, like, was injured, and he comes, and they're also like the hospital, so she like takes care of him or whatever, but then like he's like betrothed to her best friend, but she like falls in love with him while he's there, and they're like, oh my god, we love each other, but he's like, but we can't do it because like I'm supposed to marry so and so, but it's like so and so is in love with your brother who's also betrothed to Mary, and I'm like, what? I didn't like it. I didn't like the romance. Honestly, I think the romance like made me hate this book even more, because I'm like, it didn't need to be there, and it was just so forced. Like, she tried to do a love triangle. She loves the brother. I don't even remember his name. I think it starts with a T. He ends up picking the best friend, and then so she goes through all the shit with the church, and then the guy's brother, Harry, I guess has a crush on Mary as well, and decides to like marry her or whatever, and so like they're doing the binding ceremony and whatnot, and then she like has this weird like moment where she realizes like, I've got to let whoever go, and like maybe I can give myself to Harry, and they have like this talk, and like I thought maybe they had sex at one point, but I don't think they did, and then she goes through this whole thing where she's like, she likes Harry and she can make it work, and she can like grow to love him and everything, and I'm like, okay, and then zombies attack, and it's like, interesting, let's see where this goes, and then they end up like running out into these fenced walkways that surround it that they say lead to nowhere, but it doesn't. It leads to other places, which I thought was really cool, these interconnected villages that like really weren't connected, and I thought that aspect was cool, but like playing with this whole romance as they're going through. So we've got Mary and Harry, and then we have the brother and Mary's best friend, and then we also have Mary's brother and his wife join them, and Mary's brother's wife is also the sister to Harry, and so there's also a little boy they rescued that they take, and they're like traveling along the road, but then like Mary gets confused and starts falling, Travis, that's his name, falling for Travis again, and I'm just like, I don't fucking understand what's going on here, like make up your mind. So like the romance aspect really annoyed the shit out of me for this entire book, and I was just like, stop, no, like Honestly, I would have preferred this so much more if there was no romance in it. It would have made a more compelling read. And maybe if Mary wasn't Mary, because Mary is the other part that really pissed me off. She annoyed the shit out of me. She had this weird obsession with the ocean. Like, I get you, girl. I love the beach too. I've actually been to a beach though. But like just every other fucking page, it was the ocean, the ocean. I want to see the ocean. And I'm like, we get it. You want to go to the ocean, but you know, somebody who's already been to the ocean told you that it's not safe to go to the ocean. But she's just like fascination with the ocean, and she's gonna go to the ocean and all this other crap. And I'm like, you're going to get yourself and everybody else killed. And like the end of the book, they go to this other village that's already been attacked, but they have their houses are actually on platforms above the ground. And so like they do all of that so it's safer. They live there for a while till there's a fire, and then they have to like escape. And they basically split up at the end, and Harry and the best friend and the little boy go wherever, and then Mary and her brother go on down the path. There's just this one scene where her best friend's talking to her, and she's like, you don't care about anybody else, you don't care about what's going on or like trying to decide, you just care about the fucking ocean. And like, the ocean is something you need to let go. Like, it's not something that needs to be talked about and like you need to hold on to. Like, you're trying to survive in a zombie apocalypse. I feel like not being eaten by zombies is way more important than trying to find the beach. There's an attack of zombies, and then her brother dies, I guess. I don't know, but she falls over this like cliff or whatever, and she's found by this dude who's human, and he has to go, his job is like to go out and kill all of the zombies that like fall down when it rains, because there's a giant rainstorm. And he's supposed to make sure they all are actually dead so that they don't try to get into this other village. So she finds out about this other village, and they call them something else. And she's like, I didn't think there was anybody else. And they're like, oh, we cut off the passages because we didn't think any other cities were like still alive. So I thought that was interesting. And like, I kind of want to like read on, because it's a series. I think it's a trilogy. And one of the libraries has the second book on audio. And I kind of want to read it to find out what happened, but like at the same time I can't deal with Mary. Like, she doesn't care about anybody but herself and the fucking ocean. And I'm like, really? But if you have read on with this series, is it worth picking up the second book and finding out what happened? Because like, I really want to find out, but like, I don't want to subject myself to that character anymore. I give this book 2 out of 5 stars. It was bad. Like, it could have been so good. Next, I finished Up to Date by Susan Halter. This is an ebook I have. This is like a book in a series. It's like book number 8, but I think they're all like companion books. This is a free book I got off of BookBub. This book is a adult chick lit, and we follow our main character. I don't even remember her name anymore. And she is an office manager, I guess, but she wants to be this interior designer, and apparently she's really good at it and all of that fun stuff. I'm like, okay. But she like had this like, I thought it was a one-night stand, but I guess it's not a one-night stand, with this ER doctor who doesn't live in town. He lives in another city, but he was like in town for a business or whatever. They met at a club and they danced the night away, and I totally thought it was a one-night stand. But then like later on in the book, when they talked about it again, I was like, I don't think it was. I think they just danced in the club, and it was weird. And then she said something about when he would fly into town for business, they would meet up. But then there was other times when it talked about like it was only that one night. I don't know. It was weird. And then he ends up moving to the city that she lives in, and he ends up buying the flat above her. I don't think he realized it was her flat though when he bought it. Her friend does this charity auction or whatever, and she puts up her skills as an interior designer for the auction, and he ends up bidding on it and winning. And so the prize is for her to go and redecorate somebody's house. So she's doing it for his apartment. They spend more time together. He wants to be with her. She doesn't. Her dad was an ER doctor, and now he's an alcoholic. She had a horrible childhood because of her dad. All this crap. And I mean, the guy, Greg, I think is his name, is like a really good guy. And I'm like, girlfriend, like, why are you keep throwing him to the side? Because you better snatch that up before somebody else is. And there's just points in the book where she's like, oh, he's probably, because I think she wanted to go up and do something because she had a bad day, and she's like, oh, he probably has, you know, another really hot nurse or like doctor from his hospital over, and he's out a date. I'm like, just like, oh my god, shut up. Like, obviously you want to be with him, so be with him. And it was just really irritating. And our main character has a younger sister, and her younger sister is probably one of the most irresponsible characters I've ever read from in the small selection of adult novels that I have read. Our main character and her sister share the apartment, and she's always complaining because her sister, one, never locks the door when she leaves, and two, her sister doesn't pay any of the bills. She doesn't pay her half of the rent or anything. It's all relied onto our main character, and I'm like, I love my sister, but like if I was in that situation, I would have thrown her out on her ass instead of like making up excuses for like why it's okay. Like, and apparently her sister has like a full-time job and like makes decent money. She gets laid off because they're making cuts, and you know, she goes off to do whatever, and she tells her sister, and her sister freaks out and calls her mom, and then everybody's calling our main character and like screaming at her about stuff, and then like her sister's freaking out like, how are we gonna afford rent and blah blah blah, and it's like, well, can't you pay the rent for once? Like, she's been carrying your ass all over town like for how long? I don't know. I just really hated her sister really annoyed me. Anyways, so I really didn't like this book. It was annoying and some stuff just didn't make sense, so I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. And the next book I listened to was The Demigod Files by Rick Riordan. This is just a short companion book to the Percy Jackson books. We have 3 short stories as well as some interviews with characters, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Got some background stories on some events that were kind of brushed on in the books, which I really enjoyed. I also found out that I was saying Chiron's name wrong. I was saying it like, you know, he's the coordinator of the camp. I can't even remember how it said, but I know I was saying it wrong. And I'm like, I've been saying it like that since I was like in 7th grade, but it's too late to change that now. Honestly, I really enjoyed this. I liked the narrator we had for this book. He really sounded like Percy to me, and I like that. I didn't like his voices for the other characters though. I was like, no, you need to stop. But I still really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. Next book I finished was This Floating World by Morgan C. Babst. This is another book I had to read for my class. This is a historical fiction novel. It takes place centered around Hurricane Katrina. We follow a family before, during, and after the hurricane and what's going on. There's also a subplot of murder, and everything. I enjoyed this. I liked the way it flowed together. I really enjoyed it. There is a stint of cheating in here that I did not like. I also didn't really like the mother. She was very annoying and just a bitch basically throughout the entire book. And so yeah, this, for those who are interested, this is deals with a biracial family as well, so if you're looking for that kind of diversity in a book, here you go. And the last book I finished in February was Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wine, however you say it. This was very popular a while ago. I know this copy is very beat up. This is not my copy. It's my friend Cheyenne's copy. She dropped it in a puddle of water, is what she told me. This is a YA historical fiction novel. Takes place in World War II. We follow our main character Queenie, who is a British spy. Well, actually she's Scottish, but she's a Scottish spy for the British Army, Armed Forces, you know, whatever. And we follow her and her pilot friend Maddie, who also does special operations piloting, and they're 2 sides of the story, and shit unfolds from there. This book I really enjoyed. This book is not written in like a traditional sense of chapters. It's written in letters. Both sides are written in letter-esque type styles, and I really enjoyed that. You get to see Queenie unfold what's happening to her and how she got to where she was in Germany. No, they're in France. And then, you know, you get to see Maddie's side of the story after a certain event that happens that she wrote all up into it. I very much enjoyed this novel. There is a small stint of romance, but it's very, very minor, and I very much enjoyed it anyways. This book heavily deals with the friendship of Maddie and Queenie, which I very much enjoyed. You can tell both of these girls very much cared for each other, and like some of the stuff almost brought me to tears, and I think this is a book that everybody should read. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I loved it, and I really want to pick up the companion novel, Rose Under Fire, as well as there is now a prequel novel that centers around Queenie before everything that happened in this book, like before World War II and whatnot. So I highly recommend this. Now on to the books I started in February. So first is Remainders by Tom McCarthy. I read 173 pages of this. I was reading this for a class. I have actually already finished it now. This book is weird. So we follow our main character. I don't think we even really know his name until like halfway through the book, and I don't even remember what it is. He has had this horrible accident. We don't know what it is. He can't talk about it. He's legally not allowed to, but they pay him £8.5 million to stay quiet about it. And then he has this weird obsession with having authentic interactions, but they're not like authentically authentic. He like recreates them, and it's very weird, and I still don't know how I feel about this book, and I didn't really like it because I was confused, and I kind of like being confused in a novel, but like at the same time, like I was just way too confused and weirded out by this novel for my own good. Next, I have The Bane Chronicles. I forgot to put the dust jackets on these. Oh well. The Bane Chronicles by Cassandra Clare, Maureen Johnson, and Sarah Reese Brennan. I read 147 pages. Well, really, I listened to 147 pages because I'm listening to this on audiobook as well. I'm very much enjoying it. I love getting to see Magnus and hear some of the adventures that we've heard talked about within, you know, the Mortal Instruments, and now we're actually getting to see that, and I'm very much enjoying that. Next, I have City of Ashes by Cassandra Clare. I am hopefully going to finish this within the next couple weeks. I read 170 pages in the month of February. Like I've already said a million times on my channel, I am currently rereading Mortal Instruments because I love it and I actually want to finish this series. I have to say City of Ashes is slightly better than City of Bones, but I'm still starting to see more problematic aspects within this that I didn't notice the first time I read it around, but again, I was like 15. I'm also in the middle of A Clash of Kings by George R. R. Martin. Hopefully this one doesn't take me majority of the year to finish. I read 182 pages of this. I've read about 80. I've listened to about 200 of it on audiobook, so I'm actually making a lot more progress than I did with Game of Thrones, and I'm super excited about this. This is one that I'm half reading, half listening to, because listening is just so much easier, and it's helping me get through this book faster than it would if I was just sitting down reading it. I do have to say I really enjoy the narrator for the audiobook. I don't know if he does all of the Game of Thrones books, but I really enjoy him making the reading, listening experience of this book so much better. I am also in the middle of 2 ebooks right now. The first one is Broken by C.J. Loynes. This, I have no idea really what it's about. I've only read, like, I think 10% of this, maybe not even that. But we deal with a girl who has some kind of heart condition that, like, has decided I think it's her junior year of high school, that she's actually going to go to a public school because she's been homeschooled. And shit's going down. Somebody, I think I saw on Goodreads something about a thriller or something like that, and I'm like, already from what I've read, like, she's gone into the school and had a run-in with a jock, and I don't like it because it's very stereotypical, like, jock is a huge asshole, makes fun of her, and, like, all this crap, and I'm just like, really? Like, I don't know when this book was published. It makes me feel like it was published a while ago. But like that just is really turning me off, and like our main character is kind of annoying. I'm probably gonna DNF this book. I told myself I would wait till I got to at least 25%, and if I wasn't invested in the story then I could DNF it. So I kind of stopped reading that, and I picked up Map to the Stars by Jen Malone. This is a YA contemporary because I said a while ago, I tweeted out that I was in the mood to read a trashy contemporary, and it's not trashy, it's cheesy, but it's exactly what I wanted. I've read about 17% in February, and I'm really enjoying it. We follow our main character, Anna, I think is what she's called. I think her name's like Annabelle or something like that. She's from a small southern Georgian town, and her parents had a messy something go on. I haven't gotten to the point where they explain what happened, but her mom picks up, moves them both to LA, where she is going to be doing makeup and hair on movies and stuff like that. And it's our main character's senior year of high school, and it's the summer before. It's her first time out of her hometown at all, and they're trying to adjust, and her mom has a friend who works on movies and stuff like that, I guess. And he's the one who got her the job, and they get provided this job with this like really famous like teen actor, kind of like Zac Efron character. And so they're supposed to be going on him with his promotional tour for his new movie. Her mom's doing the makeup, and then she's just kind of tagging along. I didn't think there was going to be travel, but there is, because apparently they're supposed to go to like London and like Paris and like somewhere else, and so I'm super excited because like contemporaries with travel, give it to me. That's what I need in my life. And of course, we all know there's something beginning to start between her and the movie star, and I'm here for it. It's super cheesy, but it's what I want right now. So anyways, those are the books that I finished and started in the month of February. Let me know what you read in February. Have you read any of these books? What are your thoughts on them? I would love to know it down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more from me. Normally I wear makeup and look more presentable, but today is a Monday and I don't have it in me because I have class till 8:30 tonight.